Hey everyone, time for 3 at 3 on solar PV. Again, I'm Jenn Runyon, Chief Editor of Renewable Energy World.
And I'm Paula, Chief Market Research Analyst, SPV Market Research.
Okay, so every 3 at 3 we take 3 topics and we talk about them for 3 minutes each. Today's topics are Tesla, Solana, and SolarReserve's recent announcement. So we're talking a little bit more, less on PV and more on CSP. But let's start with Tesla. So they made an announcement this week. Paula, what was that?
They announced that, Panasonic announced, they both made the same announcement. Tesla really enthusiastically that Panasonic would be producing cells and modules in their 1 gigawatt formerly Solana facility in New York. Meanwhile, Panasonic announced that it was just a memorandum of understanding, which is completely different from a done deal. My feelings on this are that it proves just about everybody who thought that was never going to be 1 gigawatt of Solana cells right. Mm-hmm. And that's understandable. I mean, we've seen some failures to launch recently, including Tetrasun, the solar pistol. But also, it could be that they really need to sweeten this deal to get the Solar City acquisition. And that sort of segues right into, will Solar City survive without the acquisition? And what will Panasonic really produce any cells in New York?
Interesting. So, well, I know you've been skeptical all along of the Solana deal or announcement. So I mean, is the story they're going to be making Panasonic panels in New York?
Yeah. Panasonic technology. Again, with Tesla, it sounds like it's a done deal if the Solar City deal goes through. With Panasonic, it's more like, so with Tesla, how do I put this? Here's a good analogy. With Tesla, it sounds like they're engaged. To be engaged. Uh-huh. With Panasonic, it sounds like they've agreed to go on a first date, one of those things where they may or may not call each other the next day.
Interesting. So, yeah, so we'll just have to keep our eye on that. And your idea or your theory is that this might be something that will help the acquisition go through of Tesla and Solar City. Yeah.
So, that was the goal, is my theory. But the problem is with panel prices crashing. We've talked about this previously. Panasonic has a much higher cost structure than today's low module prices. Right now, you can get a module in the U.S. for 38 cents. So, I mean, that's not the average, but you can get them very, very cheaply. So, how are you going to compete? Is the question.
Yeah.
And is this really just meant to encourage the board members to make a decision, which personally, as you know, I think they'll regret?
Well, all right. So let's leave it at that. Let's move on to CSP. So Solana was just recently fined for emissions, and it's quite a high number. Yes?
Yeah, and I'm going to go into glasses here so I can read this. They were fined $1.5 million. It's an Arizona 280 megawatt CSP installation for emissions violations, including failure to conduct performance tests, removal of control systems without approval, and exceeding its permitted emissions limits.
That's not so good.
This is not so good. And, the problem with CSP, seriously, is that it takes a very long time to build. It's still very expensive to build. Time is money. If anything happens along the way, for example, if you're building near or over Indian cultural lands or other things, you're building near or over or around endangered species, you may find that you have to stop building, move the species, or lower the amount of megawatts you're installing. In other words, it takes a long time to install. Anything that upsets the apple cart along the way, it makes it more costly. Time is money here, and the CSP has had some dings recently because of this is not just a ding. This is egregious.
That's a big fine. So they're
stuff not to do well.
Let's say that again.
it's a lot of stuff not to do well or to be shoddy about. And when I write about it in the upcoming solar flare, my comment for this was shame, shame, shame. So
how could they let that happen? I mean, can you see a scenario where why does that happen? Is it just cost-saving measures gone too far?
I think that, unfortunately, solar is no different from any other industry. When you have a lot of pressures on you, sometimes corners are cut. Let's look at, so there's lots of examples recently. You have Volkswagen, with what they did. You have Wells Fargo and their predatory sales practices.
Right.
We are not immune from that sort of bad behavior in the solar industry with all our technologies, and we really need to be. We really need to be very clean, and everybody does.
Yeah.
And there's no excuse. Yeah. But in this case, there's no getting around the fact that people were cutting corners and behaving badly.
Yeah. All right, we're moving on to SolarReserve, another CSP. So they have Crescent Dunes. It's operating, and I will mention that Crescent Dunes is a finalist for Renewable Energy Project of the Year. Very excited for them. The editors were very impressed with the storage part. I mean, storage has been coming for a long time. Molten salt storage is pretty exciting technology in terms of what it can do for solar and making it kind of a base load proposition. And so SolarReserve has now announced a 2 gigawatt solar project, Sandstone Energy, $5 billion, 20,000 megawatt hours of energy storage. This is massive.
Well, I would say it's a massive announcement.
Yeah, okay.
It won't necessarily happen. Let's think back to the gigawatt factory in New York that is now not going to produce Solavo cells. So lots of people announce lots of things that never happen. Mm-hmm. 2 gigawatts for the budget they have, the budget is too low.
Yeah.
Full stop. The budget is too low. Will it end up eventually someday? If it takes 2 to 3 to, sometimes 4 years to build 280 megawatts or 500 megawatts, how long does that mean that this is going to take? It may end up being part of 2 gigawatts. Will it be all of 2 gigawatts? I think time will only tell. But that budget is a big red flag. And companies and people make announcements for lots of different reasons. Sometimes it's call attention to themselves, and this one has just so many red flags on it that I just have to say,
So the $5 billion is a red flag for you. So what number would you think is a reasonable? I mean, what is your rule of thumb that you look at?
Well, I'm not going to toss out a rule of thumb because I don't actually think one is set for CSP yet.
That's fine.
I mean, CSP is underperforming. If you look at back to Solana just briefly, if you're looking at the fines, et cetera, for potentially obviously cutting corners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Come on, how did they make their budget? So the budget is too small. Not going to give a rule of thumb for it because I don't think a rule of thumb is actually set yet.
All right. Would $10 billion make more sense to you?
Well, do the division yourself.
Well, that's what I'm asking. What am I?
Probably more like $6 to $8.
Okay.
Billion, so you're per. So this is a budget problem, and it's also a size issue. That is a really big announcement, with absolute a lot of detail about how long it's going to take for them to build it. Also how many acres it's going to take, and I don't right off the top of my head tell you how many acres that would take, but it all has to be perfectly level land.
True, right.
So this has so many about it that it's one of those announcements that people are going to be jumping up and down and planning on it as if it's a fact, and they really shouldn't.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got a complete article about it on Renewable Energy World, written by one of our great writers, Susan Kramer. So I'll put a link to it in our notes, and you can comment on it, and we're anxious to hear what you have to say about it. What are your thoughts? So that's all the time we have for today. 3 at 3 on Solar PV. Thanks for joining us. Please send us topics for talking about. We want to.
I believe we're going to be on again in 3 weeks. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll look at our schedules, but we've got some travel coming up. So
yeah. All right.
All right, everyone. Take care. Bye,
Okay.
Paula.
Bye.